Hello and welcome to Dazatron's Diorama Llama, and this is my new video on how to make a breakout. But can I first just say a big massive thank you and welcome to all the new subscribers who have joined recently, and to my old dedicated subscribers who are still tuning in. I really value you and appreciate you, and I've just passed the 100 subscriber mark, so that's really encouraging to me. So thanks again for tuning in, and I really do hope that you get something from these videos and it encourages you to have a go yourselves. So yeah, and again, please do write in the comments if you've got any ideas for future videos, anything you'd like to see or like me to have a go at myself. So yeah, these are called breakouts because they do exactly that. They break out of your display cabinets. So I use Billy bookshelves. I appreciate some of you might use details or other types of display cabinets, but I'm sure these could be adapted in some way. But I quite like the way these look, and I hope you do too. So here we go. So I'm just going to do a very quick kind of run through for the one side, and then I will show you the other side in a little bit more detail. So I'm starting off here with a 2-inch block. So it's quite a deep piece of styrofoam, and I've just cut away an L shape, and I'm just testing that now in place just to see how it fits. So apologies for the kind of weird video angles, and I've just roughly marked out my kind of shape of the rock formation. So this is after I've used the electric foam cutter, and I've just created a rough cut, just really just pulling away some of the foam and just kind of getting a rough shape of what I want it to look like. And then this is the last stage where I've gone back in with the floristry knife. I forgot what it's called then. So yeah, the floristry knife, and I've just added a lot more detail, as you can see there, and just really shaped those rocks to make them look a bit more realistic. So I'm going to show you this now in a bit more detail. So yeah, measure up your shelves first of all to see how much of an inset you need. And as you can see here on the one I made earlier, you've got this kind of L shape. And of course you want that to be wide enough so it fits around the edge of your shelves. So I've taken another piece of styrofoam. I didn't want this one to be symmetrical to the one I've already made. So it's much wider and it's quite a bit shorter. And I've gone for a clearly different shape to what I used before. And I've just marked out again the measurements of the edge I want to keep. So I want the edge that's kind of remaining to be the thickness of the shelf unit that it's going to be attached to. So yeah, so it's roughly about 1 inch. So you need to mark that along the one side and across the bottom. So again, you've got this kind of L shape. And you also need to do that on the sides as well, which I'll show you in a moment. So you can see here, the bit where you've got the lines on there, that's the bit that would be cut away. And the part there that's left over is what would still be there. That would be kind of the part that would fit onto the shelf itself. So yeah, I've just taken, it is quite an extreme size saw blade, but I needed a longer blade, and this is what I had in the house. So this is what I'm using, and my motto is just use what you've got. The only piece of equipment I've purchased really for this is the electric foam cutter. So I'm just cutting on the outside of the line that I've marked out, just to take into account the thickness of the saw blade. And the nice thing about styrofoam, it does cut really easily. So just being careful not to go too far. Do check both sides. And then I'm going to do the same again along the bottom edge. And you can see that's creating that kind of L shape that I was talking about. And then you just need to cut that into it from the sides. And you'll see what that looks like in a moment. So you can see the edge I've marked out there. So I'm just going to cut along that edge. And then as you can see, then you are left with this kind of L-shaped indent. Now it doesn't matter too much if it's not cut really neatly. I'm using a file there just to neat it up a little bit. But because that part won't be seen, you don't have to be too careful with that. As long as it fits flush to the sides of the shelving unit, then that's what you need. So I've created the rough cut again like I did before using the electric foam cutter. And now I'm moving back to the floristry knife and I'm just working in some details. And the key thing with this is just to keep working at the edges from different angles. And it really is a case of the more you cut into it, the more kind of chips and dents you put into it, the more realistic it looks over time. So just keep working at it all the way around the part of the styrofoam that you're going to see. It's also quite a good idea to cut into one side and just literally chip it off, and that tends to create some nice kind of details also. And just don't be scared of it, really. You can't really go wrong. If you do make a mistake, it's very easy to rectify that. It's very unlikely you would have to start again when working on something like this. And it's such a subjective thing, you know, if you don't go too far, you'll get some quite kind of cartoony rocks, and actually that works quite well, particularly for 80s kind of cartoons. Or if you keep working into it, you'll get a more detailed finish. So it really depends what kind of finish you want. And so there you can see the two pieces side by side, and they look pretty cool. So I've just taped those on just so you can get an idea, but I will share how I fix those a bit later on. So here I've just primed the two breakout pieces just with black acrylic paint. Now I was talking about not buying too much. This is it is a purchase, quite cheap. It's about £3 from Hobbycraft, and this is just a magnetic sheet. That's all it is. So it's very easy just to kind of measure out and cut. So I've just created a few little cuts there that will fit into those indents. And it's sticky back as well, so it's got adhesive on one side and the magnet on the other side. I wasn't sure how well it would fix to the styrofoam, but actually, yeah, it fixes really well. And because styrofoam is so light, it just holds it really easily. So you can see me there just kind of placing it on each side and just kind of really pushing that down. And then what I've done is I've put the magnet to magnet. So I've put the other pieces, stuck them on top. So you've got the two magnets fixed together, and then I've taken the adhesive off the top magnet, so that when I stick it in place, it's going to leave the two magnets hanging, if you like, or stuck to the sides, as you can see there. And that's just an easy way of kind of getting them into the right place without having to measure. And then I've just kind of lined them up a little bit more. So I've removed them, just kind of straightened them out a little bit. Obviously kept them in the same position, so I know they're going to adhere to the magnets that are already there on the styrofoam piece. And that just holds them really well. And the great thing about that is I can remove them if I want to create another set of breakouts. I could replace them and kind of change things out a little bit. And so it just gives you that flexibility. So it's not a permanent fix. And I quite like that. So to create the paint effect, again, it's up to you. You could go for a grey colour scheme. I quite like to use kind of different browns as well. So I've got the burnt sienna, which is the reddish brown, and the yellow ochre, which is the kind of golden colour. I have used a bit of red before in the past. I do decide not to use that in the end, but I did keep it around just in case. And I got a bit of black and white acrylic there as well. So this is all acrylic paint. They are not model acrylics, so they're not kind of already thinned out. You can do that. You can use model making acrylics, but they're a bit more expensive and you need a lot more of them. So you can easily pick up a set of these literally for £2 or £3 from your local kind of hobby store. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I use the dry brush technique a lot. So I'm using black, white and a little bit of the ochre just to do an initial dry brush effect. And then for this coat here, I've used a mixture of the burnt sienna and the yellow ochre just to get that kind of golden, kind of reddish brown colour. So I've just added some highlights using that the dry brush effect, and then what I'm doing now is I'm using the same mixture of the kind of burnt ochre and red ochre, this kind of reddish brown colour, and I'm using the yellow ochre, and I've just watered that down. So it looks really nasty actually when you put it on like that. You can see it looks like you're messing it all up. It looks too light. But as it dries out, it tends to soak into the styrofoam a little bit, and it's not as bright and as strong, and it just tones down that black. So what I'm doing now is, if some of the kind of the indents, the deepest parts of the cut, if they're looking a little bit too bright, to just go back into that with a bit of the brown and the black. And then I'm taking the reddish brown now. This kind of burnt umber colour, or burnt sienna I think it is, if I remember right, and I'm just brushing that again over the top, just using the dry brush technique. So there's very little on my brush, wiping a bit of it off onto a rag and then just lightly putting it over the surface, and you just keep doing that until you're happy. Again, it's a subjective thing. You know what kind of effect you're going for, and you can see the difference there between the primed piece as it started, and once I've added those different shades of brown. And I don't like it to look too uniform. I like parts of it to look a little bit redder, parts of it to look a bit more, using more of the kind of the golden colour. And you can see here when it dries out, it changes colour again. So I'm just using a hairdryer just to dry that off a little bit quicker. And then I'm just using a bit more of the ochre, so just making a lighter tone of the colour I used earlier. Again, rubbing off what I don't need, and just very lightly catching those areas that are protruding the most, so the kind of topmost areas. Just trying to catch those details, and it's just a case of flicking a larger brush backwards and forwards. You can see how quickly I'm doing that. Now I know I have sped up this video, but it is a quick job as well, so you do tend to kind of just brush forwards and backwards very quickly. And then I'm going back to the burnt sienna, and again just toning down some of those areas, adding a bit more of this kind of reddish brown in places. You could do exactly the same just with grey, so just keep going to a lighter grey each time, and that would work just as well. And there's the finished piece, and it really does bring out all of those marks you've made with the knife. And there it is. So there's the finished piece in place, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I hope that's inspired you to have a go at making a breakout. I'd love to see, you know, some of the things that you make. So, you know, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm looking away and maybe getting people to join Discord. I'm on a Discord with Robot Recruits, which is a transformer supplier, and it's a great place to kind of just join up with, you know, fellow kind of transformer lovers if you're a Transformers fan. And of course Facebook as well. There's loads of Facebook groups that I'm on. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for subscribing. Do pass on the word. Yeah, I'd love to see more of you. And please do like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. So see you again soon.